Okay. So the good news is I've updated with many more notes. The bad news is I've updated with many more notes. We can't go through it all, but I picked out sections that I hope we have time to go through, okay?
All right. We're in it.
And a
to
teaser
win
for
it.
the folks today is we're going to hear about the parallel moon program. It's going to it's going to lay to rest dead the conspiracy about if we went to the moon or not. It has a solution, but remember that false dichotomy I told you about? We introduced one thing for the normies, one thing for the skeptics, and then the truth is in the middle. Same with the moon program, you'll hear. We're going to hear about JFK's secret war with Die Spinne, with the Nazis. Die Spinne, by the way, means the spider. It's called that because it's everywhere. It has tentacles everywhere. Nobody knows where. You understand? It's like that. It's a shadow, ultimate shadow group.
So it really
You're going
is
to hear
like,
about that?
it really is like the Bond group, right? With the
It is straight out of a book. But like Warhol says, facts imitate fiction. And fiction imitates facts. So in this case, it's fiction imitating fact, Bond imitating reality. You're going to hear about how Perron's got his hands chopped off to get to his secret bank accounts. You're going to hear how the Zionists made a peace deal with the Bormann Brotherhood and probably also merged. But we're going to get to all that.
Let's go, bro.
Yeah, I want to clear up some things from the last show, just to be up to speed. Number one, I think Bird. Remember, Bird was consulted by the Nazis, and then later he was sent to fight them. I think they sent him because he already knew them. I think he came there to do a deal, and he had leverage with him, right? Why send Bird of all the admirals, why Sandberg? Because he had a history with them. So I think he could knock on their ice castle and try to, I mean, your own creativity is the limit here, right? But we have some facts, we have some dots, put them together and see where you want to go with it.
Perfect.
I also think in the same vein, although there's not evidence for it, that Bormann plotted to get rid of Hess. Okay? Hess, I think it was either Bormann alerted them about Hess coming, or he manipulated Hess to go, to get rid of him.
Get rid of the guy ahead of him.
Yeah, he was the only one that could stop. But already before Hess went, Bormann had already eroded. He had bypassed much of, because Hess is an ideology. And you know that in all regimes, the first thing that happens is that cynics come in, not the true believers, but the opportunists, right? Bormann is an opportunist. Hess is a true believer. And true believers are not wired to maneuver the power battles because they don't have
I agree. I agree.
I didn't tell you about the gigantic swastika in Hitler's swimming pool in Argentina. I should have prepared with pictures, but I didn't have time. But if you see from the air, only from the air, I don't know why, if you see his huge mansion, villa in Argentina, you'll see a huge swastika in the pool. Yes, he even had an outdoors pool. And the last thing I want to say before we go back to the notes is, was it you, Xavier, who found that Hitler was in Colombia?
Xavier, were you the one who found that he was in Colombia?
No, that was, I don't think that was me.
That must be in Johnny then. I want to just say that during the 50s and the 60s, there was tons of false sightings manufactured by Die Spinne itself in order to throw people off. That said,
I think that I could believe that for sure, that they were just making fake like astroturfing appearances all over the place so people would chase ghosts.
Yeah.
I know it totally happened. See that.
Yeah, I mean, it's not even speculation. We know it happened. We just don't know which one. But that said, both Hitler and Bormann was traveling in all over the place. So they could have been sighted several places. And then I have to correct one more thing. I said they had 1 trillion. That's wrong. They had 1 trillion worth today. Back then it was 50 billion. So
Okay, I
if you
respect that.
convert it for today, it's 1 trillion. But Musk only has 326 billion. Okay, so you can imagine how wealthy they were. Okay, let's go. Now, I want to say one more thing here about. I hope people can see all my notes.
Yeah.
We can see it. We can see them. All of
Okay.
them.
So I hope also that all the notes are featured during this show so they can stop and zoom and read what we can't read. I want to say about sources. These 3 books, impossible to get. I managed to get them digitally. So I'm going to share links to where they are online.
Awesome. Thank you.
Because these 3 books, classics, all came out in the 70s, 80s.
Okay, let me read them real quick, or you can read them because most people listen to the podcast. The first book is called Aftermath, Martin Bormann and the Fourth Reich. The second one is called Martin Bormann, Nazi in Exile. And the third one is called the Bormann Brotherhood.
Yeah. You'll see picture of them in South America. You'll see signatures, money stuff, everything. It's all documented. Then you have this classic, Critical Mass, how Nazi Germany surrendered enriched uranium for the United States atomic bomb. This book just put the case to rest when it came out. Then you have a tons of Hitler survival books. You have Hitler in Argentina, Hidden Secrets of World War II, Hitler's spy web in South America. This work here, if you're serious about going to Argentina, I'll put you up with this guy, Abel Basti. He's done one of the best works. And by the way, Bariloche is such a resort. It's a holiday resort. It's a beautiful area. People should totally go there. I'll just scroll a little. Eyewitness to Hitler's escape. Peter Levenda, I've had him on several times. One of his books is Ratline, Soviet Spies, Nazi Priest, and the Disappearance of Adolf Hitler. Then you have the Hitler Legacy, Nazi Cult in Diaspora, how it was organized, how it was funded, and why it remains a threat to global security. He has a book about the occult and Nazi. Joseph Farrell, another of great source. After people have watched this show, they should run over somewhere else on YouTube. I don't have the link, but Google it, YouTube it, where he talks with Igor Witkowski, another guy I have on the list. 2 primary researchers discussing the Wunderwaffe, the wonder weapons. He showed here how they survived until today. He showed here how 9/11 was connected. Yes, 9/11. And 9/11 is a Nazi date, just so you know. Roswell and the Reich, he has a book about that. He has several books about the Wunderwaffe, about LBJ and the conspiracy to kill Kennedy. Here's Igor Witkowski book, The Truth About the Wunderwaffe. Richard Hoagland and Mike Barra, Dark Mission, The Secret History of NASA. He broke the story. Everybody's talking about it now, but he broke the story about this these guys in NASA being into magic, occultism. He broke the story about
which book is this? The Secret History of NASA?
Yeah, Secret History of NASA.
Ooh,
you know, everybody's having shows today about this magician in NASA. His name slips me at the moment. It's a crater after him on the moon. But Hoagland broke all that stuff. Also how Paperclip, nobody talked about Paperclip before Hoagland's book. And then there's a few books about how they have taken over America. The Nazis next door, how America became a safe haven, the Nazi Hydra in America, the rise of the Fourth Reich by Jim Marrs. And then, of course, there's the History Channel TV series. So if you see this video, stop just follow my scroll. The thesis, I've updated that, but I'll not read it, but I'll slowly go through it so people can...
Before you go on, what did you think about the hunting of Hitler, the discovery of the History Channel?
I think it was decent. All the experts hated it, but I think they hated it because they were not the first to be on TV documenting.
Oh, respect. I get that, dude. I get that.
But it was very childish. But they, you know, I know how American television is, and it has to be like that. But it was very childish. They pretended. They're like 20 years too late. They pretended they were in danger. They were having on commando stuff, going out in the night, skulking about. Just bullshit. They could just go in broad daylight with tons of cameras, but they needed to keep it exciting for the viewers, so it just doesn't just become academic, right? So that's, I guess you can criticize that. Also, they used Gerard Williams, who's hated by some researchers because of claims that he stole some research. This is a whole world. This is a bubble. A whole world in a bubble. Anyway, can you see me scrolling here?
Yeah.
So I'm just scrolling my thesis here so people can read the updated thesis. Here's the names of the corporations. They also controlled Interpol. I put that in. And now starts here's still thesis. I put in some more names. I put in some more countries. Ukraine, South Africa, Turkey was also a part of the Bormann Brotherhood.
Unbelievable.
Yeah. And now here we begin. So now I'm going to start with the first point. I think you want to hear this. It's in 31.
Yes, I want to hear it all.
Bormann really came into the picture very early when he and Mueller was the chief of the Gestapo. Those two guys found each other very early because they are both opportunists. They are not true believers. So Hitler had a sexual relationship with his young niece, Geli. And she was very young. I think she was a minor, actually, at least when it started. And, you know, you don't even have to go to minors to know that the younger they are, the more drama it will be, right? That backfired on Hitler because she started to make scenes. She screamed at him about, for example, that he was the bastard son of Rothschilds because Alois Hitler, his father, his mother was working as a, what you call it, house cleaner, like fixing thing in the house.
So you believe the theory, and I'm not. I believe it too, but
it's documented, man.
That he was a Rothschild. That is your belief. That's my belief. That's why he sends where he is.
Well, we know that his mother worked for, his grandmother worked for the Rothschilds, one of the Rothschilds. Okay, we know that. We know also that there are no clear lineage father for Alois Hitler. We also know there was drama when she stopped working for him. And we know that his niece were using this as to provoke him. And there was also blackmail attempts on Hitler with this. So I don't see why. I mean, in lieu of genetic testing, we just have to go with that. He was a quarter Rothschilds. So, but you know what I think really made him into an ardent anti-Semite? It was when Geli wanted to break off the only successful relationship Hitler had. She wanted to break him off. Why? Because she was in love with a Jewish artist.
So, Johnny, you just stepped back in. What you missed is Hitler was hooking up with his niece, and she was wanting to leave because she wanted to date a Jewish artist. And she was yelling that he's a Rothschild in public. And Hitler was like, no, not happening. So then, so you're caught up.
Yeah, and he already had trauma because when he was an artist himself, he saw how other Jewish artists bypassed him. So he had his personal reasons.
That is so hilarious.
It is. And Martin Bormann,
Germany, Hollywood, it's all the same.
It's so funny how it was over a female, and they were better at making art than him. That triggered all that.
Yeah.
Yes. So and throw in some minors for good measure, right? Some pedophilia.
Of course, as always.
And Mueller, who was just a policeman back then, he was contacted. He was on the case, and he was contacted by Bormann. And Bormann said, "Look, man, hands off." After that, Mueller and Bormann had a pact, and they helped each other in the Reich. Mueller eventually became Gestapo Mueller, chief of Gestapo, continuing in the Fourth Reich as Bormann's top security man. And those two were not true believers. If this has been a communist regime, they would have ascended to power there too. You understand? Bormann is the apparatchik, Mueller is the police state man, and there you have it. I'm scrolling slowly so that people can read all my notes. They are updated. And I'll read it when we come to the next yellow part.
Dude, that's some crazy ass shit. There's no, Johnny, so what you missed is that Hitler, there was no real lineage to who Olus, is that his dad's name?
Alois, yeah.
Alois' father is.
I was listening to. I had my.
Okay. It's kind of crazy, dude. Because that's been the big argument forever, is that he's a Rothschild. And, you know, of course, everyone wants to push back on it. They said there's no actual proof of it. But we do know his grandmother worked for the Rothschilds. And this is just where it goes, bro. This is just where it goes, as it always goes. Just they always, the bastard children get taken. Like I said this before, Hitler is almost like a bizarro version of like Jon Snow from Game of Thrones.
Who did people see me scroll these notes now?
Yes, they're seeing you scroll these notes.
Yeah, he's
okay. With the blessings, let's see when we are here. We're at 44. With the blessings of Hitler, Bormann orchestrates the Hotel Maison Rouge meeting. I've read parts of this note, but I've updated it. They initiate the Nazi industrials' flight capital to bury treasure in Switzerland, Argentina, etc. Quiet, but this is the new thing, quiet countermanding of Hitler's orders begins. E.g., scorch, urge, Nero policy is reversed. Remember, Hitler says, burn it all down, burn it all down. But they want to leave infrastructure intact for Allied advance, plus for them to get up. We know Bormann already had open lines with the Brits. You know this drama with Rudolf Hess that we couldn't go into? Yeah, there are some indications that Bormann may have been. Mueller was suspected of spying for Stalin. And Bormann most likely had open lines to Churchill or to people there. So
Hitler wanted to what? Burn down Germany at the end? Like destroy it all?
Scorched
They're like,
earth.
no, we're not going to do that. See,
yeah,
even there right there makes me think that this whole narrative, these Hitler dick riders, like if he really loved Germany that much, why would he want just completely scorch it?
I mean, jealous love. If I can't have it, nobody can have
I
you.
still don't buy that, dude.
It's like guys throwing acid in the face of the woman they love. You know.
Yeah, that makes me sad. Yeah, you're right.
Crazy idiots. Anyway, the war cannot be won by us. We must take steps in preparation for a post-war commercial campaign.
Let me ask you something real quick, Al. So one of my biggest arguments before this episode, before your last episode, that Hitler was controlled opposition was that he never went into Switzerland. Switzerland is where the Bank of International Settlements was created to extract wealth from Germany. I believe that everything being done to Germany right now has to do with biblical prophecies of pagans versus lost tribes, and they're completely trying to destroy Germany at every chance they get. 2 world wars, the cultural decay of Germany right now, stuff that's going on in Germany. You can't discuss the Holocaust in Germany. You can't deny the Holocaust in Germany. You can't do any of that stuff. All this to me is done to destroy Edom, I guess it's called. So that when the war does come between the pagans and the lost tribes, the leader of the pagans, which is now known as Germany, will be crippled. But going back to the extracting of 25% of their gross natural product, their GMP or
it's bad. What's happening?
What happened was that the Bank of International Settlements was taking 25% of everything. Yeah. And yet Hitler does not go in to Switzerland. And the biggest argument that I could get from anybody was that Switzerland was really hilly and he didn't want to go into the mountains. And I go, but they have
Yeah, but
technology.
look, if he had gotten his 1,000-year Reich, I think Switzerland would have fallen eventually. But it was practical for him to leave it be. Like you say, it's the apex of all sorts of banking. So Hitler was a practical man, okay? At the end of the day, if some of the principled had to be bent, he would bend them. Do you know that he had Jews and half Jews in the military as officers, as generals? People don't know this, and so it was really like he knew that Bormann was in charge of the money bag. And he was in charge of that from the 30s, and he would listen to Bormann. So Bormann would have told him, look, we have to leave Switzerland alone for now. We need it to funnel stuff through it, money, art, gold, whatever. So it was practical. Many rat lines went to Switzerland. So, but yeah, they did, for whatever reasons, among these, leave the banker place alone. And Ian Fleming goes to Switzerland. And there he wanna check the loot, and Madame Fouché passes him an envelope containing a simple note saying NSDAP 6058. That's the Nazi party membership number of Bormann. In other words,
Whoa.
without breaching security, she tells the Brits, the British intelligence, if you want to get to the loot, now that the Reich has fallen, your man is Bormann. Go through Bormann. That's why he saved his life. That's the interest the Brits had in him. He has the keys to the fortune. He's the only one who can account for where everything is, all over the world. Indonesia, South America, South Africa, everywhere they spread stuff. And Bormann was the key. So Bormann used this to negotiate his own surrender, and he was tight with MI6 until, you'll see. Also in 45, Hitler marries Brown in the bunker. And what I forgot to tell you is that Hitler tells Bormann to bury everything. You will need it to return to power. And trusts him with the last will and testament, hands leadership to Dönitz, and then retreats. Shortly after, he's doped down and abducted on orders of Bormann. So I forgot to say Hitler wanted to go down with the ship. That's
Hitler
the only
wanted
way
to
you
die.
can interpret.
Hitler wanted to die.
Yeah, I think so. Well, die. I think I don't think he wanted to leave. Why else would they have to dope him down before they threw him in the plane?
Maybe it was like the A-Team where B.A. Baracus couldn't fly. He just needed to be doped up to get on the plane.
Scared of heights, scared of flights.
Could be, yeah, that could also be. That could definitely be. Because it was, I mean, all of us would be scared under those conditions. Okay, next note is also 45. Harold Golding, responsible for the Operation James Bond, which extracted Bormann, suddenly dies. Rumors was he was going to reveal the whole thing. I just want to say, and he was Churchill's most secret agent. I would just want to say, notice for now that in this hospital works a Dr. Cameron, okay? Then I want to make one more thing clear about the Bell scientists. Kramer at some point, Richard Kramer, he was taken by the Gestapo because he wasn't, he had said something bad about the Nazis. And then he was let go because it came down from the top. He's involved in a project which is war decisive. Now that is above top secret, okay? That is above nuclear. War decisive. That's how the Nazis were viewing the Bell project. To give you an idea of how important it was. Okay. Let's move on. I think we're still in 45, yeah. The post-war uses of Yeah, Operation Sunrise is where Dulles and the guys are extracting useful Nazis.
It's called Operation Sunrise.
Yeah,
Oh my
Paperclip.
God.
Paperclip is a successor to that. So Dick Cops. I don't know how you. It doesn't.
It's fine.
It doesn't
However you
sound German,
pronounce
but
it.
poor Dick Cops.
Paw Patrol.
He became the leader of Interpol. He was extracted. And other leaders for Interpol were Nazis too. For example, Arthur Nebe and not Walter Rauf though, but yeah, several other Interpol bosses where you can read this note in its full here. Then here comes an important thing. Nelson Rockefeller is a guy you need to remember because he was deeply involved in the post-war war. He was on the American side, okay? Truman finally fires Rockefeller. He's an agent of Bormann. And with a charge that is virtual treason, is called insubordination.
Damn.
And the reason he was fired was that he engineered for Peron to take over and provide the Nazis of, it says here, 100,000 Nuremberg criminals. So
the Dulles brothers are the most treasonous pieces of shit on planet Earth, right? I mean, they're
and the Rockefeller brothers too, just as bad.
Just treasonous pieces of shit. And the fact that they have an airport named after them is just such a demoralization. It just lets you know who runs everything.
Yeah.
But look, the biggest joke in America is that you have a library named after Bush. Okay, he can't even
I mean,
read.
for sure, I'm with you on that.
So that's how it works over there. Now we come to Cameron. Dr. Donald Ewan Cameron, a prominent psychiatrist, is asked by Dulles to conduct a psychiatric evaluation of Hess. This is in 45, who is diagnosed with amnesia and hysteria. That's what you would get if you were not Hess and tried to say you're not Hess, or I don't remember. He's hysterical, he doesn't remember. Hess later claimed that he had faked amnesia.
No shit.
Then Dulles asked Cameron to examine him if he is an imposter. So even Dulles doubted.
Oh, but you said last show you thought that wasn't Hess. That was a different dude.
Well, I just cited some of the conspiracy theories about it.
Okay.
It's complicated, man. Some sources claim Cameron was also involved in other, including that he was tasked with altering or erasing Hess's memory or creating a new narrative for him. Now, this is interesting because if it's a double, that double has to be filled with some deep mind control. For example, MK Ultra, right? Well, wouldn't you know it? Cameron, after the war, becomes the architect of CIA's MK Ultra project. It's the same guy, and he has tested it out on Hess. He has goddamn tested it out on Hess or his doubles, and it succeeded.
So Cameron was a Nazi? Was Cameron a Nazi? Or was he
was probably CIA? Just a Mengele, an allied version of Mengele, a crazy scientist. And who wants to use a crazy scientist? I do, says Dulles, right?
Okay, but they was like an
work
American
today too.
He's an American, or is he a German?
He's a Scotsman.
Okay, all right.
And he goes to, is it Canada? I think the project MK Ultra was in Canada, wasn't it? I think they put it there just so that it was outside of, or it could be America. I don't know, Mount Royal Clinic. But
yeah, we're not gonna fact check you at this point.
Okay, but at the end of the day, if he had failed with Hess, why would he become the chief scientist for MK Ultra? He had to succeed. So that's a small bomb right there. Now we are at 46. Most of the notes we just have to skip. Bormann is brought to Düsseldorf for a secret Odessa meeting. The object appears to have been to use him to lure SS resistance and werewolves in, so they could all be photographed, identified, tracked. and a decision could be made about who they would arrest. So apparently he was working for the Brits. This was called Operation Lampshade.
Okay, so what you're saying is he set up this meeting with everybody just to get them in so they could go, okay, this guy's this guy, this guy's this guy. Ah, damn.
Super
Nothing's worse
traitor.
than treasonous pieces of
They all three. You look, further up in the top you go, the less principles they have. It's all about
these
themselves.
scumbags.
Totally.
Yeah. Okay, let's move on. In 47, Nelson Rockefeller delivers crucial votes for the Zionists. This is important because Israel is about to be established. And don't you think Bormann is nervous that the Jews are getting their own state?
Yep.
After everything that, yeah. So what happens is that Nelson Rockefeller makes sure that all the South American regimes, most of them are in the pocket of the Nazis at this point. He makes sure that they vote for Israel. It's the crucial votes they needed to be recognized. But
So
a
let me
deal
ask
wasn't
you-
made.
Let me ask you, so the Nazis want Israel?
No, the Nazis don't want Israel, but it's going to be voted upon in UN, right? And the crucial votes they need are from Nazi states in South America. So Rockefeller, who is their liaison, says to the Israelis, you can have vengeance or you can have a country, but you cannot have both. Famous quote. In other words, leave the Nazi war criminals alone. And you will get a country. Right? This is why they only extradited 2 people. The Eichmann thinks we're going to get to. So
Yeah,
this is how...
And most of the guys that they arrested is like, she was like a 90-year-old chick. It's like, she was a librarian at a library on an SS base. Let's get her. You know, it's like they didn't actually go after anybody.
Yeah. No, if you weren't an asset after the war, then you weren't safe. If you were an asset, the higher up you were, the safer you were.
But what do you think about, like, why were the guys like Speyer and the others that were put on trial in the show trial? Why were they selected? Do you think? What were the qualities of those people that were selected?
You mean from the Allies or from...
Well, for the actual Nuremberg trial, you know, you had like Speyer, who was kind of like the nice Nazi.
Yeah, I mean, they claim they took who were available, who they could get, right?
It was more about availability than.
Yeah, because some of them, like Goebbels, I think Goebbels died. Some people think he got away. I think he died. Okay. I think Himmler died. Some people think he got away. I think those guys went down. They would rather die than... And Goering eventually died. He suicided before he could be hanged, right?
Oh, you think that was he did kill himself, though? You believe that?
Oh, okay. He could have been murdered, but what's the point when he's going to be murdered the day?
No,
after
I totally
anyway?
agree. Yeah. No, I agree. Yeah, I just think he is. I've heard.
Actually, I think it was an American soldier who gave him.
Yeah, it's claimed to be an accident, right? But it's right. Like that he gave it to him accidentally, but.
Your question sheds light on a more important aspect, namely that why was it the least ardent Nazis who were taken?
Yes,
like exactly. Speer, the architect. I think it's because the really heavy Nazis, they who survived, they were important for either the Allied or the Fourth Reich, and they were protected by that very fact. Plus, Bormann and Hitler, who didn't give help to those guys, who were in control of the rat lines, Bormann, right? He wouldn't want to help anyone who could be a competition to him. So the top echelon, who wasn't loyal to Bormann, went down. So that's my take on that.
So all like the owners of like Volkswagen and BMW, those were all obviously well taken care of because they were part of Bormann's crew.
Bankers. Let's jump to the end here. Can you see this list of corporations?
Yes.
Can you just read some random famous names?
Allianz. I see Hugo Boss, IBM, ITT Core. Let's see, IG Farben, IKEA. We've got
Nestle, Porsche,
Nestle, Messerschmitt, Volkswagen,
Coca-Cola.
I love how Johnny got German there. So you're saying
I
all
took German in
these,
college, so it's a habit.
all of these companies worked with the Nazis.
This is just what I could scramble before we started here. This isn't even 100 companies.
AP.
And remember, Bormann had
really?
control of 750 after the war. This isn't even 100 companies.
And by connection, that mean like stock, or they invested, or there's someone in that's a Nazi. What is a connection?
Yeah,
that's a lot of companies.
both. Controlling the CEOs were Nazis. He made sure of that in 45.
Wow.
And they reported to him even when he was in the remote jungle. You'll hear that in a later note. So remember, things weren't computerized back then. So things were by paper, very old school.
Now, is it true what they say about the Nazis, though, that they were fastidious with notes? Like they kept immaculate notes? Is that true?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. Especially Bormann, very anal.
Yeah.
Okay. Next note is 48. This is important. Bormann sets up future headquarters, Colonial Waldner 555. 40 miles wide, 100 miles long. Protected one side by immense muddy waters, and on the other side, thick jungle. Yugoslav Ustashi guards leading a small force of tribal Indians. The Indians would report to them. They would just be spies. They would say someone is coming. The colony was linked with 14 similar fortresses in just this area.
Wow.
Remember, the Nazis had military camps all over South America, especially Paraguay, Brazil, Argentina, and Chile. One of them is very famous, made it into a Hollywood movie. We'll talk about that one later, where they didn't mention the Nazi thing, which is the whole thing. Yeah, they only mentioned the pedophile thing. Anyway, so this wasn't where Bormann preferred to stay, but is where he always had to revert to when there was trouble in paradise. So he was using this as the safe base, and he was traveling to Chile, Brazil, Paraguay, Argentina, and they had the Air Force of Paraguay to keep an eye for intruders in the sky.
Wow.
They had flights and SS guards.
Wow.
Yeah. And if anyone came by river, they would have to get one of the 322 German riverboat pilots. There were 322 pilots. All of them are German, so you couldn't get there. All of them worked for Bormann. Now, in Argentina, the year after, we see the Hemule project near Andes Mountains. So remember, when Bormann is in Colonial Waldner, there's one point in South America where Paraguay, Argentina, Brazil, and Chile meets. This is the hot zone, right? Because they can move easily from one country to another. Bam, 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 bam. So they would set things up in the south of Brazil and the east of Chile, and so that's how it works. They had different proximity things. Now, cold fusion plant by Richter, and Kurt Tank builds jet fighters. All of these are involved in the mysterious Hemule project. And we are thinking free energy plus aeronautics is UFO. Then a destructive fire breaks out. And Richter says sabotage from spies. So it could be KGB, it could be CIA. Someone wanted, because if this is 49, so the Americans know what they're up to in terms of anti-gravity, right? So they would try to send spies to try to create troubles. Then formation of NATO in 49. Top Nazi officers in all top operational military
Unbelievable.
positions. Adolf Hausinger, Hans Spiedel, John Steinhoff, Franz Josef Schütze, Friedrich von Senger und Etterlin, Johann von Kielmannsegg, Ernst Ferber, and Karl Schnell. And we know already Galen becomes
Now my question
chief.
is, do any of them change their names?
No, and they still have the swastika in their symbol. Google NATO symbol, swastika, and you'll see how it's a hidden swastika. So what the hell do we need NATO for today? Today, it's just a criminal assault group trying to bully third world countries out of their resources. That's what it's about. So the sooner we can dismantle NATO, the more peaceful the world. 1950, Bormann sets up Die Spinne. Now, Die Spinne is super important because Die Spinne is basically his military.
Right there in the middle. Unbelievable.
It's his international military army, basically, movable military army. So they often recruit neo-Nazis to them. Eventually, it seems to me that it was after Bormann's death, I think it was taken over by Rockefeller. And I think the Nazis went in two directions, but we're going to get to that later. So he sets up Die Spinne. Elements were protected and reorganized by Alan Dulles and Nelson Rockefeller and John McCloy. And among people they use is Colonel Skorzeny, Otto Skorzeny, who was son-in-law to Hjalmar Schaft, who is the finance minister of Hitler. Both Hjalmar Schaft and Skorzeny works for Die Spinne. Hjalmar Schaft worked for Bormann in economy.
And the Spinner is what again?
The Spider. The bad guy, Bond evil organization that's behind most of the terrorism, which was blamed in the 60s and 70s on left-wing groups and anarchist groups, etc. But they were always, it's like what they do in America today. FBI leads on some right-wing group. 10 of 12 are agents, and the 2 last are retards. And then they say, look, the right-wingers are taking over, right?
Yep, you're totally
kind of the same they did in Europe.
Yep,
it's nothing new. They learned in Europe. Only then they were targeting left-wingers. Then we have in Argentina in 51, Perón publicly announces the Hummel project, this cold fusion thing. He says it's a success with thermonuclear fusion control achieved, adding that in the future, energy would be sold in packages the size of milk bottles free of charge. Now, stupid.
Yeah, that was so dumb to say that out loud.
So flamboyant.
Why would you say that out loud, dude?
Exactly. Bormann goes into a hissy fit, right? And international media starts a smear campaign. And Perón is forced to close down the project after he calls on help from Prince Bernhard of Netherlands. Incidentally, active SS officers all the way to 45. He helped people escape. He's also a former Farben corporate executive and the founder and first boss of Bilderberg.
IG Farben, right? Is that what you're talking about? IG Farben? Yep. Damn, dude.
More damn is that the fact that he's Bilderberger. He is Mr. Bilderberger.
Oh, snap. So the company, damn, bro. So the company that was basically Germany's military apparatus that was in charge of building up the military industrial projects of Germany, IG Farben, basically also founded the Bilderberg Group.
Yeah, important Farben people.
God.
Yeah.
Oh my God! Everything's Nazi.
Everything's Nazi. That's the problem. That's the problem. So I'm carrying an infectious disease, and you'll all be infected when we're done, and that's that everything is Nazi. But I have some mitigating nuances at the end. It's not like if you raid a corporate Wall Street office, there's going to be a swastika on the wall. Things are a little different, but anyway. Why did I mark this one? I just want to say a funny thing about the crazy Dr. Mengele. He goes to Brazil as soon as Brazil becomes Nazi in 51. And he's obsessed with identical twins. And he starts conducting covert genetic experiments in Brazil. You know boys from Brazil?
Yeah.
And there are still and it's based on that. It's still colonies in Brazil, Paraguay, and Argentina today with identical blonde and blue-eyed twins.
Now, do you think that was just about Aryan breeding, or were they actually trying to clone someone from the Reich?
I think both.
Okay. Was it the guy from Hitler? Was it Hitler from the film? Sorry to spoil that for people.
You just ruined it. They only had 50, 60 years of
Yeah.
time to see it. But, let me answer like this. Look at the crazy scientists we have today under Fauci. You saw what they did with the dogs in North Africa?
Yeah. Oh, yeah, dude.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
So they do whatever they can, whatever is possible for them. Do you know they try to put a head from a guy or from one body to another?
Yeah. There's a guy who's working on that, right? Yeah.
Yeah. So these are the people today. Now, what do you think were holding these guys back? Nothing. So whatever was within their ability to do, they would do. Could they clone Hitler? Then they would do it. So genetic experiment was just rudimentary back then, and I guess thank God for that.
I mean, look what they're doing now. They're literally
cloning rappers.
Yeah. 52. Eva Peron dies of cancer. Her body is embalmed and displayed. Peron has access,
bro. Imagine that embalming you, and then everyone's like Instagram like picture.
Yeah. But if you think that's bad, her body was kidnapped 18 times from now on and until the end of my life. Yeah. Yes, you're gonna hear.
Who wants that?
It's so much drama, man. This is like this is the Cold War. Everything was agents and covert and a plot within a plot within a plot, right? Whereas the people were dumbed down and should only believe the news headlines. We live in the first era where those things are cracking, right? It started to crack like 20 years ago, and it's just been a slow downturn from there. We're seeing now what the world could be if there was free flow of information, but they're trying desperately to perpetuate this thing within the internet. Anyway, don't get me started. So I want to say here that Peron's foundation was a slush fund for the Nazis. And I think the model that Hillary Clinton used for her foundation, okay? Because it was the biggest charitable organization in South America, and they even used compulsory, they even collected money compulsory. It was a mafia heist. And of course, it was used to whitewash. And it's very important because Peron was clueless. She was just a face. Eva Peron. But Juan Peron, he and Bormann had joint accounts. Bormann had his own accounts and Peron had his own accounts. And he flushed a lot of stuff through her. And there was some drama there. We come to that later. I don't want to go into the Indonesia track. We don't have time for that. I just want to say that there is a chance that in 52 or around in the mid-50s, they moved Hitler to Indonesia. That's a parallel. There's the most plausible Hitler tracks is the one in South America, and then there's the one in Indonesia where he begins in South America but ends up there. Everything else is bullshit, but these are those that have receipts. So the Hitler in Indonesia thing, very hard to judge if that's him. It just could be a Nazi called George Pock, but it could also be him. And if it's him, you're going to hear some interesting stuff at the end. Argentina, 52. Mengele moves to the Nazi community in Buenos Aires. Practice medicine, is given a license from the Ministry of Health, who knew who Mengele was, and he specialized in illegal abortions for the rich and famous, for the daughters of the elite, because abortion is, I think even today, frowned upon in Argentina. It's like at the level of murder, okay? But the Nazis don't have any qualms of doing that. And of course, the daughters of the elites have to be accepted, right?
Right.
Let the worker class go to some old woman who uses some kind of herb. But here we have a license, and he made a mistake. So one of the girls died, and her rich parents got him arrested. But then the government intervened, It was the local police arrested him, but the judge got a call and he was released back to his clinic. And while in Argentina, Mengele has 50% of big pharma. Most big pharma companies today comes from the Nazis, by the way, just so you know.
Of course.
Why
not?
Right? Yeah. 54. Eisenhower allegedly meets occupants of a saucer. Now, who are so-called Nordics. Now, if the whole alien thing is a decoy, then who he could meet would be Nazis, right?
Meeting with, Nazis?
Yeah.
Nazi alien Nazis?
UFO Nazis. Could be. Because you're going to hear how
crazy.
every goddamn president in America, with 2 exceptions, has visited Bariloche. What on earth? Well, I'm not saying Buenos Aires, I'm saying Bariloche, backward, at the end of the world. Nobody knows about it. Why are they going, paying their respects there? To who? And why are they all checking in on the Hotel Lao Lao, which is associated with Hitler? It's like a tourism, like a, what you call that kind of tourism, where it's like the rich people, the wealthy people in America all know about it. And they go there tongue-in-cheek and are taking pictures of that. That could be, that's the most innocent
level. Like a destination vacation?
Destination vacation, the most innocent level. The sinister level is there's still a power base there and they are paying their respects. But we'll get to that.
And what country is this in?
Bariloche it's the main Nazi capital of Argentina.
Okay.
It's where Hitler had his Nazi.
What are do you know the 2
house.
presidents that didn't go there?
What's that?
You said all but 2 presidents have gone there.
Yeah, we'll get to that. You can probably guess who didn't go there. One of our favorites. Indonesia, if Helle Posch was Eva Braun and Anton Posch was Hitler, then she leaves him in 54 when her father dies. Eva Braun's father died. And then Posch marries an Indonesian woman with whom he has a little boy and converts to Islam.
No.
Hold on.
So if this is Hitler, it's huge.
You're saying Hitler married an Indonesian woman and became Islamic?
Peter Levenda's research indicate this.
Whoa.
But, in 54, it wouldn't be bad for him to convert to Islam because many Islamic power bases were cooperating with the Nazis. And the Nazis were propping up Islamic countries, especially around Israel. And there was Nazi gold, tons of Nazi gold in Indonesia.
He'd be
in
65.
fact, the Nazis
He'd be 65 in that year.
What's that?
He'd be around 65 and 54, right?
Yeah, we're at 54 now.
Al, can I ask you briefly, tagging on to what XU is saying there, because I have thought about this a lot. One of the reasons I don't argue for Hitler having lived terribly long after the war is because when you see him with the Hitlerjungen there right near the end of the war, he looks incredibly unwell. Do you think that is just disinfo,
No.
or is he unwell?
All the evidence, if you read the books about his escape, it's not, everything is documented, even where he was, which doctors he met. No, he was a complete wreck. He had shakes.
Yeah, okay.
Like this, and he was on all sorts of drugs. So what happened was that in the beginning, he was staying at this place in Bariloche where there was this swastika in the pool, and he was living the life. But then gradually, as things become harder for them, reports started to happen, right, in the West. And Bormann became increasingly paranoid and increasingly annoyed with Hitler because of he was sitting there thinking they still had a shot to overtly have the Fourth Reich. So he was giving him orders and plans. Oh, we're going to do this. We're going to invade here. We're going to do that, right? And
I just say really quick. Yeah, because toward the end of the war, they talk about how Hitler was obsessed with manipulating imaginary armies that didn't even exist at the time. So this sounds similar to that.
Well, I mean, to a certain extent, they had armies by proxy. They had private armies like Blackwater, right?
Right. No, I'm talking about before the war ended. You hear stories of him.
Yeah, I know.
Campaign maps, moving around units that were obliterated by that point in the war.
Yeah. No, I don't see any reason to doubt those things. And but eventually, Hitler was in such a bad condition that Bormann, only if he really needed him, then we're going to have a meeting and they wash him and comb him and put him up and then leave again.
Wow.
He died lonely and sick. You'll hear soon.
Okay.
We're at 44. So this is also incidentally when Eva, according to the Argentina, there's two scenarios, right? Indonesia scenario and fully Argentina scenario. In both scenarios, Eva leaves him in 54. So she she's got enough of her sick and crippled husband and the isolated life at this place, taking the two daughters to Nequeen and filing for a divorce the next year. Bilderberger is created by Nazis.
Imagine having to deliver those divorce papers. Hey, mister.
Oh my God! We should make the Hitler and the
They said I got to
sketch.
bring you this. I don't know what it is, but hey, man, have a great day. Sorry about this. Bye. And you just run as fast as you can
Because he had SS guards there. We should make that Hitler and the bunker movie thing about that exact thing. He's getting served his. Okay, Nelson Rockefeller and Dean Acheson and Alan Dulles. These three are very important because they are basically Bormann's traitor to America, inside of America, cooperating with Bormann, to such an extent that Nelson Rockefeller can order Die Spinne around on his own, not just Bormann. Whenever they needed some terror done, they were calling up on Die Spinne. Rockefeller trains Gestapo police agencies, elite Gestapo-type police agencies in 40 countries. Through his US aid program and the Rockefeller-financed Interpol private police organization, thousands of former Waffen assets are incorporated into the police establishments of Latin America.
So crazy, dude.
Yeah.
Just so crazy. I mean, just crazy.
Yeah.
Just crazy. Because there's no internet at this point. I mean, everyone in the world knows about World War III. But do they know all the specific people and all that? No, they don't. So all of a sudden, there's just this influx of Germans coming in, and now they all got high-paying jobs. You're like, what is going on here?
Yeah. They're taking all the women and all our jobs.
They're taking all their checks.
Like all immigrants, right? 55. Military coup against Peron. I speculate it's sponsored by Eisenhower. Because Eisenhower, first of all, Truman is on to Rockefeller. So he boots him, calling him a traitor. I think he must have alerted Eisenhower when he took over. Look, man, we have some fifth columnists. I'm not entirely sure who everyone is. They are very powerful. Be very careful. Blah, blah, blah. And then Eisenhower tries to do something. And I will, because I think it's a war going on that will find its climax in JFK. We're soon coming to that, ending with them winning that war and JFK going down. But Eisenhower here makes sure that Argentina is finally not safe for Nazis anymore. And
so
now,
hold on, real quick. So you earlier you said that Eisenhower met with the people from the ship, right? It was Eisenhower that did that. Okay.
He also went to Bariloche.
You should find this video for your own research. It's from 60 Minutes in America. It's back when 60 Minutes did really good work. And they were interviewing this Boston lawyer who just wanted to figure out why all these Nazis were allowed to exist. And he did Freedom of Information Act. He push it. Well, finally, the CIA's like, okay, or the FBI is like, you can read these documents. You can take no notes, but you can read whatever you want to read. And what they basically found was, and this is why I push back against Tucker Carlson's trying to reimagine Nixon, is that Eisenhower, Nixon, and Rockefeller basically worked together to bring Nazis over to the United States.
And Kissinger was also involved in the Nazi faction in America,
Yeah.
although he was a Jew.
Yep.
So I agree with that. But you know, you are going deeper than Tucker, you know.
Yeah,
you have the surface level where everybody's discussing. Then you have the next level where he's going. Then you have that level we're operating on now. I don't expect, you know.
It's 99% of the population can't take this conversation.
No. I mean, they can if it's far enough back in time, then they can entertain it. My problem is that I'm going all the way up to our time, right? So we're going to lose people on the way, I think.
Yeah,
it's fine in the 50s because most people went alive or don't have any interest. Anyway, so now they smack down. They even arrest Ronald Richter, this scientist who's doing the free energy stuff. Odessa members panics and flees. Bormann leaves his illegitimate daughter, goes to Brazil, then Bolivia, finally settles with Klaus Barbie in Paraguay under the name José Peros. Even Perón goes into exile. First, he spends time in Paraguay, Panama, Venezuela, before settling in Spain in 1960, living in Madrid under the Franco regime, which is pro-Nazi. Then we have military coup in Paraguay, the exact same year, of course, right? They are losing Argentina. That's one pawn up for the, I just call them the FDR faction in America. FDR is dead, but the anti-Nazi faction, right? Under Eisenhower. And then Bormann makes his move to put in Alfredo Stroessner in Paraguay. And his regime lasts all the way to 89. And this was a downright Nazi regime. Stroessner, I think, is not even a German name. Dr. Mengele had base here where he experiments on locals. And many locals dead, tortured. It was all rolled up after 89 when the regime fell. So that means that they don't have to go far. When Argentina fall, immediately Paraguay opens. You don't think that's coincidence? Does anyone think that's a coincidence?
They just pick up shop and move.
Right. So it's just a chess game. Here, after the coup, the military government removes Evita's body. Between 55 and 57, the body is kept hidden several places before being relocated, including a secret location in the Buenos Aires military intel service and even in a cinema. But the thing is her secret bank accounts in Switzerland.
Wait, up in a movie theater?
Yes, they kept it in a movie theater. It's embalmed, so maybe it was just pretending to be a sleeping viewer. Yeah, you can read here. Those who see the video can read this. It's about whitewashing the Nazi loot. Then we have, Fleming is seeding some info in his movies, in his books. 56, Italy. As part of a broader NATO strategy, they create Operation Gladio. You probably heard about that. Stay behind. Putting in Nazis all over Europe. And they are behind most of the terrorism. 1,100 Italians are murdered in cold blood by NATO terrorists in bomb attacks from NATO and CIA. I don't understand how people have no memory. They think NATO is something good. It's never been something good.
Yeah, but they don't even understand. It's not even having a memory because they've never gotten that data point from most of your people debating what's going on with NATO and the Ukraine have been sold that NATO is just there to keep the Russians from expanding. They don't realize that NATO is a straight up Nazi organization that within its own logo, right? Yeah. So
yeah, it's in the logo, crazy. But they had some legitimacy during the Cold War because they could always say they are stopping Soviet from expanding, right? They're stopping communism.
Right.
But they don't have that anymore. NATO is not involved. If they were involved with China, that would be one thing. They're involved with Russia, which is a capitalist country. So it makes no sense.
Most people don't even know that Russia is a capitalist country. They still call it communism.
Right. There's more communism in America
listen,
right now.
You listen. The treatment of Russia and the Russian people is so insane to me.
It's off the charts, man.
It's so insane. Like, the Jews are protected class because of the Holocaust. I mean, if we really want to play that game and we think that because something bad happened to someone 80 years ago, that we should be able, they should be, we should not be allowed to criticize them. Dude, Stalin and the Bolshevik Jews and what they did against Russian Christians, that's 2 out of the top 5.
Not just Christians. Besides Russia. Okay, so if we're going to give Israel free range now because of what happened to Jews during World War II, then we should do the same with Russia, because Russia lost more people. Yep. They lost more people than the Jews did. I forgot the number, but you can Google it.
They were just holding front. It was just regular civilians just holding the front for the Nazis that were coming in.
Yeah, they really gave their blood. It's the Russians we have to thank for the Nazis losing, not America. So, anyway, Bormann is identified in Bariloche in 57. He acquires contact with a Nazi organization. Brazil, Mueller establishes Bormann on, now he's back to this Colonial Waldner 555. SS guards, food and other supplies were brought in by riverboat, trucked inland to the colony. Visitors came and went by Piper Cub, which upon landing would taxi up to a large hangar and disappear from view. A bowling alley down on the side of the hangar provided recreation. The best German cooking was provided by former SS mess sergeants. Bormann appeared very much the plantation overseer, with boots, white pants and shirt, and a wide-brimmed Panama hat. Such a hat, along with being protected from the ubiquitous hot sun, was also against poisonous spiders that dropped from the trees. When one of the SS informants was asked, why don't you just use poison gas as the Americans do in Mato Grosso to defoliate the trees and exterminate the spiders? His bitter reply was, we used up all our poison gas during World War II.
Unbelievable.
Bormann curtails his travels to Argentina because Israeli agents has begun infiltrating Argentina now in search of war criminals. You will note this is right before, this is 57, right? Eichmann is taken in 60, I think. So now they know
Israel, the Zionists go back on their agreement.
Yeah, that's actually what's happening here. He continues his complex business affairs by remote control. A cadre of skilled professional business administrators would routinely return to this isolated area and make reports. They come with suitcases and suits, right? Make reports on investments, on the prosperity and growth of the corporations they controlled, and then leave again. So it's a funny picture. It's like a movie. 58. Pay close attention now, guys. This is a doozy. Despite Cold War and against tractates, old allies US, UK and Soviet jointly explode an atomic bomb covertly in Antarctica. The signatures reading shows either it's high in the atmosphere or deep underground. Now, people can't make heads and tails of that. What? You don't know if it's high on the ground or deep under air? I have a potential explanation. You want to hear that?
Let's go.
If the world is hollow and there is huge entrances in the poles, if you bomb that entrance, it will both be in the atmosphere and underground. So I think that is the best explanation. Now, 58 is, could this be Eisenhower's making a desperate decision? You know, we're losing the covert war against the Nazis. Let's take out the main base in Antarctica, which is probably where the UFOs are. I would suspect that in South America is more the economic echelon, but that the practical, because having swastikas and Nazi U-boats, even in South America, it's hard to get away with that. But having that in Antarctica could work. So Soviet in the middle of the Cold War, UK and US, joint nuclear bomb explosion in Antarctica could be a move in this covert war I'm speculating about. Then they set up the assassination factory Permindex Incorporated. It's a front for Die Spinne and CIA. You will notice people like Clay Shaw, you know that from the JFK. You will notice Otto Skorzeny.
Yes, yes.
You will notice other, James Angleton. Permindex were occupied with espionage, covert operations, assassination, money laundering. Swiss banking families, always, blah, blah, blah. But the controlling apparatus was...
I'm telling you, bro. Dude, Switzerland is the head of the snake. I think
at least it was.
You have the black nobility that is operating, that to me, it controls the Vatican, the city of London, Washington, D.C., but I believe its headquarters. I think that, even the Club of Rome has moved to Switzerland,
Really?
Yeah. So I totally believe that's where the power base is. And that's why they're allowed to go, we're neutral. I love that a country can just say that. Oh, yeah, we're neutral. Well, we're not getting involved in your stuff.
Not just are they neutral, they have the best democracy in the world. Everybody gets to vote upon everything concerning themselves. It's insane.
I'm moving to Switzerland. Can I
move
not
there? Not everybody coping Switzerland. So, no, it's democracy for them, not for us. Yeah, you could be right. But I tend to think today it's globalism. It's international. You don't really need a physical base so much as you did in the past.
Well, it's just a place where the elites can be elite and they could chill and,
and
they can all meet up really. Hey, dude, meet me down at the Coffee Bean and we'll discuss what we're going to do with Africa.
Davos is in Switzerland.
Who?
Davos. That's
Davos, CERN, the Bank of International Settlements, the WEF, the World Economic Forum's out of there.
It's a good pattern.
Lizard people.
Lizard pattern. So Permindex, what you need to know about them, they were behind, they were involved in the JFK assassination. They attempted the Charles de Gaulle to kill him. They created the Jackal, a terrorist in the 70s. Yeah. They created Carlos and other left and right-wing terrorists during the next decades. And one of the board members were the most prominent sponsor of the Muslim Brotherhood terrorists.
Okay, so this go up just a little bit to the top of that. So you're saying this assassin factory named Permindex was founded as a front for the CIA and the Spider organization.
Yeah, for the Nazis, basically.
For the Nazis?
Yeah,
it's like
it's by the Nazis, but it's like we need a company that both the Nazis and CIA have direct access to. We need a task, an operational task force.
Oh my God, it's like that. Yeah. It's like the X-Men school of just assassins. Oh my God. That is so fucking nuts, dude.
And it happens in 58. I think it could be related to, if we look at every big move now happening in America, South America, all over the place, as a chess game between the anti-Nazi faction in the Allied and the Nazi faction in the Allied and outside the Allied, because the Nazi faction is global at this point. They have the advantage of being global. Then we have to read every move happening in that. And I haven't had time to make that case, and I won't do it. But anyone reading all my notes will see immediately that everything is a move in one or the other direction. Okay. Moving on then.
That's so crazy, dude. That's so crazy.
Yeah. Here's in 58 too. Bormann's plantation stay ends. He moves to the high mountains of Argentina that borders Chile. So now he's back in Argentina. It's safer there now. An occasional journalist would take up the hunt, but would be tracked down by Muller's men.
Yeah.
At one point in time, NBC News in New York sent a news team to South America, but NBC abandoned the principle of journalists when it made this a combined operation with Israeli secret agents and a Zionist organization in South America. It is probably still unaware that Mueller had penetrated the Zionist group and that every step taken was known to him beforehand. It was quite impossible, and still is today, to surprise Mueller and therefore Bormann. They have a fail-safe system of protection that dates back to World War II, when the espionage agents of Germany, Japan, Italy were operating effectively throughout the Western Hemisphere. This is part of the infrastructure to which they became heir, which serves them today. This is written in this 80s, I think. Bormann settles at his solitary farm in Curbito and ambulates back and forth. So Antarctica.
Do you have any power at this point, or is he just on the run?
No, it's both. He has power. But remember, corporate power is about papers, right? So he is on the run physically because he's one of the last known faces. And you'll see what happens very soon. But let's go back to Antarctica. The year after they nuke Antarctica, then they make this Antarctic Treaty and sign it, prohibiting military activity and establishment of military bases on the continent, weapons testing, and nuclear explosions. Why do they even have to say that? I mean, I think it's huge what happened the year before, and I think that's also the reason this is set up the year after. I think maybe they think we finished off their bases. I don't know. You can speculate. Why did I include Paraguay? Bormann and Mengele is kind of on the run now. You can see here Bormann health turns worse, and they call Dr. Otto Biss, who examines Bormann and Mengele. He observes that Bormann has a scar on his forehead, and that other than a recurrence of his gastritis, whatever that is, he was in good health. Now comes the Eichmann case. Here's what happens. Bormann, you have to understand, one of the reasons ex-Nazis hated Bormann is because he was controlling the funds. And he said, look, I'm the party treasurer, and it's my job to guard these funds. So you get nothing. Everybody came to, Odessa was true believers. So they organized Nazis out of there. But then, in order to facilitate their survival, they were dependent on Bormann and funds. He took over everything. And he basically eroded Odessa with Die Spinne. And he didn't care about the former Nazi cadres. If they could be of help, yes. But for example, they threw Eichmann out. Eichmann stopped living off the secret Nazi retirement funds and just was a poor worker in Buenos Aires with a family, calling himself Ricardo Clement. He had kids, he has wife. I think he was working in a car factory or something. And then these Israeli agents who was hungry to get someone were fed by the Bormann faction Eichmann's whereabouts. And they came for him. So what the note says, he's abducted off the street by Mossad officers. This creates huge waves and shock, even internationally. We thought it was over. We were supposed to have a peace deal, right? You got Israel. Mengele gets cold feet and moves permanently to Paraguay. Bormann crime networks promptly tells Prime Minister David Ben-Gurion and Mossad chief Isser Haral that finance for Israel will end if any further Fourth Reich Nazi war criminals are pursued. Israel strikes a deal with the Bormann group that there will be absolutely no more Nazi hunting for big shots and are henceforth preoccupied with consolidating their state. Remember, by 1976, the Federal Republic of Germany had, since the founding of Israel, paid out 85.3 billion marks to survivors of Holocaust. East Germany,
and they're still paying that shit. It's hilarious. Still paying.
But
still paying. It's like
what you don't
ridiculously stupid.
But what you don't know is that the load of that payment were done by the Bormann organization. So they paid most of the German payments to Israel. And that's why they had leverage over Israel too. So it has drawn many of the brightest Jewish businessmen into a participatory role in the development of many of its corporations. And many of these Jews share their prosperity most generously with Israel. So what I'm saying here is that the Bormann organization has recruited many bright Jewish businessmen into their corporations. And these Jewish businessmen share their prosperity with Israel. So one Jewish businessman arrived quite unknown with Bormann money as his leverage. Today, he is more than a millionaire, a quiet leader in the community with a certain share of his profits earmarked as always for his venture capital benefactors, meaning Bormann. This is taking place in many instances across America and demonstrates how Bormann's people operate in the contemporary commercial world, in contrast to the fanciful nonsense with which Nazis are described in so much literature. So much emphasis is placed on select Jewish participation in Bormann companies that when Adolf Eichmann was seized and taken to Tel Aviv to stand trial, it produced a shockwave in the Jewish and German communities in Buenos Aires. Jewish leaders informed the Israeli authorities in no certain term that it must never happen again because a repetition would permanently rupture relations with the Germans of Latin America, meaning Nazis, as well as with the Bormann organization, and cut off the flow of Jewish money to Israel. It never happened again, and the pursuit of Bormann quietly quieted down at the request of these Jewish leaders. He's residing in Argentinian safe havens protected by the most efficient infrastructure in history, as well as all those prosperity. Personal invitation is the only way to reach him. Now, in the same year, 1960, Eisenhower visits Bariloche and the Lau Hotel.
Is that the one you were talking about?
Yep,
Yeah. Yep.
Hitler,
shit.
they have on the wall when Hitler stayed. And he signed something called the Declaration of Bariloche with the president of Argentina, pledging cooperation.
Dude, this
So
shit.
he's the first of several presidents who for some reason find their way all the way to Bariloche and the Lau Hotel, which is associated with Hitler. And at this point, Hitler is still alive. Bormann is still alive.
Dude, this is crazy.
Eisenhower has to know this. Even if he has people who are traitors in the system, he has to know this. Okay, 1961, JFK takes over. He fires Dulles. Why do you think he fires Dulles? If Dulles is tight with Bormann, and JFK wants peace in the world, and he knows Hitler is alive, and he's looked into it, he needs a CIA that can follow his orders. So in order to clean up CIA, he has to take over, and he kicks out Dulles. You'll see what CIA does next. Khrushchev and JFK start secret dialogues, exchanging UFO info. The Nazis in the Pentagon wouldn't stand for that, right? Then he now announces the moon program, and this, I venture, is a threat to the paperclip Nazis. Then comes 62, a sweeping victory of the Peronist faction in March elections in Argentina. Perón is still in exile, but his faction wins. New hope for the Bormann Brotherhood. However, only 11 days after a new coup, CIA sponsored by JFK, leading to Peronism being banned. So here we see the hand of JFK moving. His CIA is toppling Perón.
And this is what I'm saying, dude. Is what Israel treats America the way America treats Latin America.
Yeah.
Like this whole thing right here. Like, just, dude, Matt Gaetz is going to be Attorney General. Nope.
Yeah,
that's not happening.
And they put in this.
And now you got these Nazis are working with these Zionists. It's so crazy to me, dude. It's so crazy to me.
But it's not that crazy if you see what the Zionists are doing. I suppose 50 years from now, whoever left calling themselves Palestinians can have these extra permissions that Zionists are taking today, right? Because of their Holocaust. Okay, so I think that's the reason why South America has been so important after the war. I think it's because of this covert war. That's why America want to control it. So Hitler reportedly dies in 62, only with his 2 bodyguards at the age of 72. This is the most safe date, we think. Of course, it could just be one of the many. Now he dies and we move him somewhere else, right? But most of the trails die off here. So I think by 62 he's dead. So he had 45 to 62. He had 55. He had almost 20, 18, 17 more years to build the Reich, but never managed to build it overtly. Bormann wasn't interested in that. If Hitler had been saner, younger, more rational, and he didn't have Bormann made it so that Hitler needed him. But Hitler really wouldn't need him to begin with because he had many brilliant people. Then he could have built a Reich. It could have become true. But Bormann didn't spend the money on helping ex-Nazis, so they hated him. He just spent the money on building up his own power base. And whoever was, like Mengele and Barbie was on his good side, so they were helped. Eichmann was thrown to the wolves. Okay, 63. JFK quietly proposes to Khrushchev to cooperate to reach the moon. Shortly before his assassination, Khrushchev accepts. JFK orders CIA to exchange UFO information with the
military. Yeah, here we go.
Right?
This gets him in trouble, right? Nobody talks about that.
Especially if Nazis. Then he's assassinated by a German Mauser rifle only produced for Argentina. Now, Jim Garrison actually manages to reveal that Permindex is behind the practical part. Permindex, the Murder Incorporated, the Nazi. Yeah. No, but the problem for Garrison is that he didn't understand they were Nazis. He just saw all these weird people collected by this weird front company. He died not knowing they were Nazis. But he did the brunt of the work unraveling it. And he saw all these anti-communist Cuba people, right? That was, all of them were hired by these people, Clay Shaw and other former Nazis, intel people, corporate people. And so maybe they were not ordering the hit, but whoever ordered the hit on JFK, and I think like Joseph Farrell, it was coalescence of interest. Whoever did it, they had to think practically. Who are we physically going to do this? The only people I would use if I were them were die Spinne, meaning in this case Permindex. Much safer than using even CIA troops, okay? So I think the reason some files are still in CIA is not because it says CIA is behind. We already know that. It's because it says CIA and Nazis are behind. I think that's the big thing they can't reveal.
And remember, Israel.
Yeah, if Israel was involved too. And remember, Permindex was a mix of CIA and Nazis. So,
yeah.
And then you have this guy, David Sanchez Morales. Watch out for him, because he was not just essential in killing Kennedy. He was also known to be implicated at top levels in other covert projects in the 60s and 70s, including this, I don't know what is, GMWAVE, and the ZRRIFLE plot to assassinate Castro, the Bay of Pigs operation invasion, the assassination of Kennedy, the secret war against Laos, CIA war against Laos, the captured Che Guevara, and the overthrow of Salvador Allende. You know, David Sanchez Morales and Klaus Barbie was together, well, actually we come to that, when they took down Che Guevara. So Nazis took Che Guevara. Argentina, appointed by the military, Guido becomes president, holds new elections, and now the anti-Nazi faction wins. And but after JFK's death, there's a new CIA coup, and the Nazis take over Argentina again. You see how this isn't coincidental. These chess moves are happening after a pattern. That's my point. Unfortunately, we can't see the whole pattern. I just have time here and there. Here's a new one. Yeah, that's the new coup, making it safe in 65. They got rid of Kennedy. Now the Dulles faction, the Nazi faction, the Rockefeller faction is taking over all institutions. I think after this, so that's when everybody says there was a coup in America. There's a coup in America that started with the killing of Kennedy. That's true, although the coup started already back in the business plot, but they failed, right? And FDR got the upper hand, Truman got the upper hand, Eisenhower got the upper hand, and JFK almost got the upper hand, and they took him down. And after that, they got the upper hand. So there was a war in America behind the scenes up until JFK. After JFK, bam, they all take over. And as for who did not visit Bariloche, JFK.
Oh, really?
Mm-hmm.
Hey, do you know if Trump visited at all?
Yes,
Obviously
we'll
not.
get to that. We'll get to that. Yes, he did. Astronaut Clark McClellan meets with Gestapo Mueller and General Kamler in NASA in 1965. So now they feel very safe. Now they can. Remember Kamler in charge of the secret weapons? Go all the way to NASA to visit their buddies running NASA. There's a moon program going on now, right? 66, Bolivia. Bormann's buddy Klaus Barbie, together with CIA agent David Sanchez Morales, captures, tortures, and executes Ernesto Che Guevara. Why would Morales, who, by the way, were wearing Che's ring as a trophy, why would he now work with the Bormann Brotherhood? Is it payback for Bormann Brotherhood helping in the JFK assassination? Assassination.
Close enough.
Yeah,
Close
we
enough.
have to fix those
That's
things
fine.
before you take over. Or did he work directly for them? Why can't it? Assassination. We're just fixing some note here, folks.
Damn, it's crazy.
Jim Garrison initiates the investigation and quickly uncovers many Nazi connections, including Clay Shaw, who vetted. Clay Shaw vetted the
freaking
paperclip
deep,
Nazis.
dude. It's so deep. It's
so
so
deep.
nuts.
It's everywhere, man.
Dude.
It's everywhere.
So nuts.
And now, in 67, Nixon visits Bariloche.
Oh, God.
And in 67, FBI file on Bormann reveals that he has been banking under his own name from his office in Germany in Deutsche Bank of Buenos Aires since 1949. He held one joint account with Argentinian Perón in 67 under his own name. He's written checks on demand accounts in New York, Chase Manhattan Bank, blah, 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 Deutsche Bank, Buenos Aires. All this is after the war under his own name. Obviously,
he didn't even hide it, dude. He didn't even hide it.
He didn't bother anymore. The Israelis was not after him. He was in bed with them. The Americans weren't after him. They won after JFK. So it's all about making a global corporatism now. 1968. During her reign, Queen Elizabeth visits Bariloche. Bormann turns up in the medical office of someone. He is suffering with hepatitis-related pain. And then he's shown a photograph later of an informer, and the doctor confirms Bormann and Mengele. What does he say about the health? Yeah, so he says that Bormann is his patient. Yeah, I'll just read. Despite the assistance Bormann has received from various leaders in Latin America, including help from members of U.S. embassies and consulates and several CIA station chiefs, Heinrich Müller is still paranoid and exercise extreme caution in protecting Bormann. Both in 55 and 57, he moved Bormann to new locations. Then Müller leaks the story of Bormann's death, repeating the old ploy of providing a body in a grave marked Martin Bormann. Each time an exhumation takes place, it is found to be the remains of a deceased Indian, although one was that of an Israeli agent who had gotten too close to his target.
Oh, that's
so it's all cloak and dagger still, man.
Well, that's like Hitler with the Russian chick, right?
Yeah, yeah. 1970, the Torbit documents appears, revealing Werner von Braun involved in the JFK assassination. Werner von Braun, of course, you know, from NASA, Nazi from NASA.
What?
If the Nazi were behind, I can see why. I think this ties into the moon program too. Remember, they're fighting for space, right? They don't want Soviet and America to cooperate, not if the Nazis are ahead. So what I see I didn't put in the note, or maybe I did put it in, but I didn't mark it. But I want to say about the parallel moon program. You need to know what went on there. Did they or did they not fake stuff? Of course they faked stuff. They had to fake stuff. They wouldn't go out with real footage in the middle of the Cold War, where they were competing with Russia. But they went to the moon. But they didn't go with the Apollo rocket. That was a dog and pony show, according to
you think we went to the moon?
Yeah, with anti-gravity. We went to the moon with anti-gravity, and
so all those launches and all that's all just
no, I think they're relaunches, but they are following. It's very, you have to read Dark Mission to understand how they pulled it off. First, there was calculations that were wrong. So if they follow those calculations, they would have crashed. But there's indication that they used anti-gravity technology to help facilitate the Apollo program. In other words, they probably already been at the moon. They already had a way to go to the moon. And now they needed to get this Apollo thing, a cover story, or whatever you call it, a decoy. Because if they release footage from the moon, genuine footage, and they release details about the technology, it's not a space race anymore. I mean, the Soviets were almost beating them to it. So the whole idea is that they had to keep it, not because they wanted to fool the population, because they wanted to fool the Soviets. And in addition, if there's Nazi lurking behind the scenes, then you have an extra incentive to cover this up. So there was a parallel space program. This is the thinking. And that parallel space program has survived today. It's called the classified space program. And it's behind most of the UFO sightings in our immediate sky, not those in the outside of our atmosphere, but here. So that's the thinking. And I know it sounds outrageous, but really, does it sound more outrageous than the other stuff I told you? And you have to go to look at the sources to understand why it's plausible, all the evidence for it. And it involves Nazis. It involves the Nazis in NASA. It involves the Bell, all that stuff. So it's a deeper story here. So I think both are true. I think we did fake the moon stuff, but I also think we went to the moon. Again, you have, like, for example, you see it in the ancient alien thing. Either man started as a cave dweller and had a straight way up until today. That's the mainstream belief about man's history, right? Or there was ancient astronauts. That's for those who doesn't believe the ruling narrative. And in between, the truth, that there were ancient human civilizations. Oh, that's how you cover up for that. And this is how they are working this all the time. So they did it with the moon program too.
All right, so let me ask you. You say that we went to the moon, but then a lot of it was fake. Is any of the footage real? Anything that we've seen, it's so all that's they're not willing to give us any of the real shit.
The reason I believe it's all fake is that there was this Mexican photograph director, Jose, what's his name? He made some stunning movies about the moon, where he showed how the moon really looks. It's full of colors, man, and full of, by the way, weird structures and stuff. One of the movies is called, I think they call The Living Moon. 3 movies. All the footage is brilliant. And what he did what nobody bothers to. He took original things that we have real photos of the moon, right, from satellites and other stuff. And he defiltered, because they put this gray filter on the stuff, so everything, same with Mars. They're trying to like make everything look nothing to see here, move on. And so he just fixed those filters, and then you see what the moon really looks like, and it's stunning stuff. There's a whole episode for you just discussing the moon, we could, but we have to move on. So yeah, I don't believe the footage of astronauts on the moon is real, no. Anyway, Evita's body is stolen again by a Italian fascist. And a Paris investigator reports that Bormann is a wealthy man, could easily escape from the confines of jungle life if he wanted to. This is already in 1970. This is the year you were born, isn't it, Sam?
What year?
This is the year you were born? You were born in 1970?
No, I was 72.
Oh, okay. So the world was full of strange men who could flee, who could buy privacy. Interpol's files are stuffed with reports tracing the movements of Nazi funds and the business enterprise they finance. Quote, I cannot march into a foreign country and arrest a man I know is the former Inspector General of Nazi death camps. He is no longer Herr Richard Glucks, you see, but Senhor something or other, a citizen of that country and entitled to protection. Our only hope is publicity. And it is only in recent times that we have been able to get information out of the secret police files of the Latin American countries that conceals these devils. They spent a lot of money buying citizenship. They spent a fortune corrupting their new governments. As they say in Bolivia, this country cost us enough. We'll kill anyone who tries to sell us out. The famed Nazi hunter Simon Wiesenthal naively travels to Buenos Aires thinking he could find Bormann and take him, only to discover he is protected from seizure as the money and investment he guards for those he has benefited are grateful. He is told in no uncertain terms by the local Jewish leadership to cease stirring up trouble and to leave the country, which he did. On a directive from Bormann, Jewish and Gentile bankers and businessmen alike are represented in the management of German Argentinian firms, as well as in other West German corporations in Brazil, Chile, Bolivia, Paraguay, Ecuador, Mexico. For these reasons, and because he was not personally involved in the Holocaust, the Mossad no longer has an interest in the capture of Martin
Of course
Bormann,
they don't. Unbelievable.
who they too know is alive and well.
Unbelievable.
Here's an important thing. In 1970, the Nazis put up their own UN. Their own UN. We call it the Nazi UN. It's called the World Anti-Communist League. And you know who hosts the first annual meeting? Reverend Moon of the Moonies cult.
That is so crazy.
The
so crazy.
Unification Church. Yeah. You know about those guys,
crazy.
right?
Yeah. Yes.
Yeah, that's so crazy.
We'll skip the propaganda duo thing. P2 Lodge is too complicated. It involves CIA, Vatican Bank, Cosa Nostra, whole source. It's the Godfather, the third Godfather movie is all about this thing. But we don't have time for that. Then we have Bolivia, 1971. A scandal forces the government to take action, revealing its links to Bormann Brotherhood. And, quote, the Bormann Brotherhood, a shadowy organization involving former Nazis, is established with the goal of furthering Nazi ideology and potentially rebuilding power. This group is involved in arms trafficking, money laundering, and drug smuggling, operating through fronts like blah, 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 and utilizing figures like Klaus Barbie.
Klaus Barbie.
Yeah.
Klaus Barbie.
Yeah. And then
this is crazy.
your year, Sam,
My
72,
year.
Chile. As a direct consequence of revelation making headlines, because what I didn't tell you is now people, like those 3 books I told you in the beginning,
Yeah.
those guys are starting to write articles, becoming these books, and seeding those articles out in 1970, 71, 72. So now everybody's starting to hear that Bormann survived, okay? Bormann's profile, paranoia spreads, and a secret Nazi conference is held in Santiago with the aim of replacing Bormann as administrator of the enormous war fortune. The conference was arranged by Captain Hans von Gerstein. Bormann was himself present, and the Chilean secret police monitored and eavesdropped on the entire session. This was the last time Bormann was seen in public. Then you have Paul Manning, who publishes a lot of this stuff, and he details Bormann's activities, where he creates and fosters 750 new businesses, mafia companies, financial forthright, laundered Nazi loot, former SS sympathizers are given seats on these boards. That answers your question in the beginning. So they are still actively seeding these people, these companies with their people. And unscrupulous Zionists are recruited as senior board members in these companies to camouflage the Bormann network's Nazi origins. That's how you do it.
Unbelievable. That's like Anna Kasparian working on the Young Turks. And you're like, what the fuck
Being
are
an
you
Armenian?
doing?
Yeah.
Oh, hey, I didn't know. Now she's going off on it. It's like, too late, bitch.
Yeah, although there are Armenian living in Turkey as Turkish citizen.
Well, I'm from a village, Van, that is in Turkey.
You from Van?
Well, my descendants are, yeah.
Because the Kurds try to claim that city, but it's really an Armenian city. You can
It's
hear
Armenian
it in the name,
city
right?
in Turkey.
It's like in Yerevan, Van. Yeah.
Yeah.
It's and I think it has another city there called Batman. Did you know that?
Yeah.
Neighbor city
No, I
of
didn't
Van.
know that.
Batman. I think they say Batman.
Batman.
Okay. 73, Chile. Coup. Pinochet. They execute in 9/11, of course, right? They set up Colonia Dignidad. That's the one I told you about. And circa 800 Nazi colonies similar to those existing in Argentina and Paraguay are set up all around the country. We already heard about this 555 thing for Bormann. Under the leadership of SS Commander Walter Rauff, who controlled the Nazi faction in Chile, Mengele controlled Paraguay, Bormann controlled Argentina. So, Colonia Dignidad makes headlines because it was not just a place where they... Dignidad, the dignified colony. Well, it was a camp for pedophile, torture, murder, pedophilia activities.
Yes, I've heard of this place.
It was a cult, brainwashing cult. And when they made a blockbuster Hollywood movie about it, they didn't mention the Nazis.
Of course they did, these fucking scumbags.
Yeah.
Oh my God. This is
We're getting closer to our time. We're almost done, guys.
Okay.
Then we have in 73, as the public is becoming aware of Bormann's survival, Willy Brandt's German government in collusion with CIA acts to end for all time the speculation that Bormann is alive. It holds a press conference in Frankfurt declaring that he died in Berlin in 45. It displays a skull alleged to be that of Bormann, which conveniently emerged in Berlin a year earlier when all the articles started to come out. However, there is one problem with the debunking, and that's that it was proven many years later, though, but it was proven that the skull contained red soil, which doesn't exist in Germany, but which is typical for Paraguay. And also that the teeth had 9 more fillings than Bormann had. But even if that was Bormann's skull, it shows that he lived in Paraguay, because he wasn't in Paraguay before 45.
Well, and correct me if I'm wrong, but the dental records were recreated from the memory of the dentist, right? It's not like they actually had the records. They were. I read that he had to recall what his teeth look like, which to me is just. I mean,
yeah. But wasn't that Hitler, though? I forgot.
Oh,
if
perhaps.
That was,
Perhaps, maybe.
either Bormann or Hitler, that was the case, yes.
But either way, I mean, just ridiculous that you would expect
Wait
the
up.
dentist to remember the teeth.
Wait up, Johnny. When they talk about them knowing like how his teeth were, that's all off imagination.
No,
no.
But
dentist?
there is one of either Bormann or Hitler. One of them that usually they have like a an X-ray or something. But in that case, it was just based on memory.
Damn, they don't say that when they tell you when you read about it.
And to this day, there is no whatsoever, nothing, zilch, zero, nada, physical evidence of Bormann or Hitler dying in 45. They used to claim there were evidence, but that all the evidence have been debunked. Is there evidence for the opposite? Yes. In the books I cited, you will find even pictures of them, man. Even pictures of them. What more do you want? So let's read the last part here. The London Daily Express declared the press conference a whitewash, that it was Bormann's passport to freedom in perpetuity, and it's true, forever freeing him from harassment or capture. The European press revealed that a deal was made between representatives of Bormann's NSDAP in exile and the German government. By so doing, the government sought to free itself from the unending pressure of continuing to search for Bormann. As a result, I remember he financed them. As a result of the announcement, Bormann was, with worldwide trumpeting, declared dead. Dr. Gauff, state prosecutor for Hesse, removed the official warrant for Bormann's arrest and the reward of $36,000 for his capture. Because as long as that was out there, he wasn't safe. Now everybody was off him. Embassies and consulates were directed to ignore future reports about Bormann alive. If anyone is arrested on suspicion that he is Bormann, we will be dealing with an innocent man, is the orders they got. So, but he didn't live long to celebrate it, because we think he died very shortly after. But first, there is another death that's interesting. Perón dies in 74. In 87, someone breaks into his tomb and removes his hand, along with his army cap and sword.
What?
In order to get access to the secret bank accounts linked to illicit Perón-era funds and Nazi gold, as he received billions from Bormann. An anonymous letter is sent to the Peronist party demanding $8 million ransom for the return of his hands. Now, we are led to believe that they rejected this blackmail. Yet the hands are recovered, and nobody is being punished. Okay? So remember, back in the day, for the youngsters listening in here, back in the day, it was all about the hands. Today is the retina and all sorts of high-tech stuff, right? But in those days, in the old school days, yeah, your fingers were your clues to get anywhere. So the Bormann billions, there's a whole war about the Bormann billions in the City of London. See, City of London, Bormann has a lot of economic investments there, but they are run more or less by Zionists. I don't believe they were run by Nazis. So MI6 and City of London are compromised economically. CIA is physically compromised, and Wall Street physically compromised with Bormann companies and physical Nazis. And
you thought the City of London was compromised by
that part of London, which is called City of London, which is just an area in London, which actually is it's just like the Vatican State. People don't know this.
Yeah,
it's a free state in itself.
Yes,
not aligned with England, and they are Zionists through and through. Yeah, totally Zionist.
So crazy, bro. So crazy.
Now, after Perón dies, the real power behind the scene is Riega. He's an astrologer and political advisor who became a close confidant to Perón. He's also a member of the P2 Lodge, had close ties with its founder Licio Gelli. During Perón's exile in Italy, in Spain, I mean, Riega became deeply connected with fascist circles, including those around Otto Skorzeny from Die Spin and Permindex. He played a central part in creating and leading the AAA Alliance Anticomunista Argentina, which was responsible for the persecution of left-wing activists during Isabel's presidency. Riega controlled much of the political decision-making. Through these connections, members of the French heroin route were introduced to the AAA. It would become key contributor to increasingly uncontrollable conflicts in Central America during the 80s. Narco trade, guerrillas, and weapon dealings, where left-wing groups were pitted in counter-gang warfare against fascist death squads. Prominent among these death squads, controlled by the Spin and CIA, was Mano Blanca, White Hand in Guatemala, led by blah, 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 who was also a member of the World Anti-Communist League. Remember the Nazi UN. And he eventually ran for president. So we see it creeping up towards America, Middle America too, not just the Deep South. During the president of Isabel Perón, the corpse of General Pedro Aramburu is stolen. There's a lot of stolen corpses. And they attempt to negotiate the return of Evita's body. There's a whole story about the bodies here, but I'll move on. Some estimates of, I told you this, 1 trillion in today's money. 75, having lost Bormann and Hitler. Didn't I say that Bormann died? Where did Bormann die? Did I say that?
Yeah, you said that they found his dental record. You were talking about it was about Bormann, right?
No, that was when they were faking his death.
So Bormann is dead by, I think we're safe to say that he's dead by 75. He could have died in 72, 73, 74. We know from often when we get reports, it's from doctors. Why? Because they can't just call a Nazi. They need a good doctor, an expert in whatever ailment they have. And then there's a civilian. And those are potential leaks. Also for their face job. You asked if Hitler still had a mustache, but I know that some of the Hitler researchers claim that both Bormann and Hitler attempted face jobs, which were very rudimentary back in the day. But why are the Nazi-friendly dictatorships falling in South America? I think it's because Bormann, after the death of Bormann, you don't really need to physically hide anymore. I'll just read this note before I muse on it. Having lost Bormann and Hitler, the Nazi-friendly dictatorship, fearing Soviet influence, launched Operation Condor with the CIA. Okay, that's where they are causing havoc. You can read his note. 82,000 killed, 30,000 disappeared, 400,000 imprisoned.
It's so deep.
Argentina, Chile, Uruguay, Brazil, Paraguay, Bolivia, Ecuador, Peru. So all the Nazis, it's like, okay, we lost our leaders. Now one last ditch effort. They band together and almost becomes a Reich. It becomes like a lot of junta states. Then we have in 76 a coup against Evita's body is moved again. So Evita's corpse is stolen and moved 16 times in total until 76. With a policy now exclusively directed towards subjugating and genocide against developing nations and the earliest possible nuclear collision with the Soviet Union, the Rockefeller-dominated Atlanticicists pulled the Spin out of its decade-long detente period of inactivity, where they unsuccessfully tries to impose they tried to impose fascism with a human face during the 70s, okay? So now in 76, from 65 to 75, now they will display its true face as Nelson Rockefeller, Henry Kissinger, and the old boys at the Foreign Intel Advisory Board.
There we
go. With the CIA, sent the global Nazi terror network on a new rampage. In Washington, D.C., they assassinate Orlando Letelier, former cabinet minister of Allende. They had just previously deployed the Spin to stormtroop through the streets of Greece, protesting that the junta fell. And then the Phalange War atrocities in Lebanon, helping actually Israel. In further Phalange War atrocities, in the terror episode where a jet was hijacked by a Croatian Ustashi, there must be some, in pirating a Soviet MiG to Japan, in continuing murder of blacks in South Africa to attempt to trigger a continental racial bloodbath, Die Spinne is also used in AAA fascist assaults on revolutionaries, workers, and Jews, causing sudden and nightmarish revival of Nazism in Argentina, and in CIA-directed assassination plots against pro-debt moratoria third world leaders, including Prime Ministers Manley of Jamaica and Forbes of Guyana, as well as Guyana's Foreign Minister Fred Wills. The operatives ordered these world leader assassination at a meeting of Gusanos, which are Cuban exiles in Miami. The Caribbean wave of Gusano terrorism culminates in the brutal bombing murder of 73 people aboard a jet of Barbados. These events shocked the world into awareness that Die Spinne, run by Bormann and the Rockefeller brothers since World War II, not only continues to exist, but now plays a preeminent role in the Rockefeller-Kissinger-Carter foreign policy. Apart from South America, among European movements they sponsor are destabilization of the Italian Republic with the Sicilian separatist controlled by Zuccarello, a member of both the Italian fascist MSI and the Spanish Fuerza Nueva, working for Licio Gelli, the head of P2, Corsican separatists, the Basque movement, the Turkish Grey Wolves, and a number of other regionalist violence-oriented groups. Their assigned role is to act as battering rams against the existing national states of Europe. They are all controlled and deployed by the same financial and strategic interests which once launched both the Mussolini and Hitler movements.
Hey, Al, we got to wrap it up. We have
one more note.
One more note. Okay. I'm fine. Everyone. Yeah.
This is just showing you who visits Bariloche. Carter in 77, Pope Paul in 82, President Reagan has been there, Clinton has been there several times. Hillary, even all the popes, Hillary even went there on her own. Bush, of course. You can see here. Even Jeb Bush, you know, he was in 15. They thought he was becoming the next one.
Yeah.
So they sent him while he was exploring if he was running. Prince Harry's been there. Obama's been there. Rex Tillerson.
My God.
Donald Trump. Why are they all going there? It's insane.
Because they're kissing the ring, dude.
I think
out of that freaking hotel.
Yeah.
What's the name of the
hotel? And I'm going to wrap
again?
it up now.
By
the way, I hope the notes are, this is what ChatGTB said. They said it's totally a Nazi International. I fed it all the sources. And,
dude, it's great. It's great. We got another podcast. That's why we got to wrap it up.
Yeah. Okay. And finally, for people looking at the screen, these are people who has been to Antarctica. Okay, so my final word, what happened to the Fourth Reich? It's still among us. It is corporatism today. I don't believe the new generation necessarily are racists, per se. They are racist in a different way. They think that all the plebs are under them.
Are they fascist?
Yeah, they're super fascist. But it doesn't matter. They're not going to like save Norwegians just because we are blue-eyed and blonde for the most. We are part of the Undermensch now. So it's a huge class of Undermensch. They have the same values. It's it's not just an economic inheritance. It's a direct board member inheritance. And the sons of the sons of the sons, right? But I do think the Nazis split after Bormann died. I think the economic Nazis went all Zionist, on board with the Zionist, Wall Street, City of London. And I think the more brutal, hands-on Nazis were eaten up by CIA and American Black Ops groups. I think they're also still around in terms of who's having the UFOs. It's not Pentagon or even CIA who's running these UFOs. It's corporations. It's black projects within corporations that are dictating the Pentagon and the CIA. The Pentagon and CIA are working for these people.
Yeah, 100%.
Yeah.
100%.
Yeah.
That's it. Al, you were great. You were great. This crushed. This is one last time. What's the name of the hotel? The Lulu?
Yeah.
Wow.
I don't know how you pronounce it, but it's written LL I think. Lao.
That's how
Lao.
I think it's pronounced chow chow. Anyone speaking Spanish here?
Chow chow. Yeah, we got a Mexican right
Mexican
here.
right here.
Yeah.
Chow chow. That means like dog, right? Chow chow. A type of dog. That's what I know as a chow chow.
The dog hotel?
Maybe, I don't know.
starts with an L. Can
What's that?
the L sound that makes a C sound like a
Yeah, I wouldn't know. No, I wouldn't know about that. It might be a whole different thing. They're like it's a whole different dialect over there in Argentina. I wouldn't know, honestly.
But Al, thank you for coming on. Your 2-part series is probably one of my favorite episodes we've ever done.
Fantastic.
You let me know that my psychic ability is right, no matter how much Johnny fights it. I am right. More than now, I have the details.
Sorry, Johnny.
I appreciate you. One more time, tell them where they can find you.
Yeah, so go to forumborealis.net or search me on YouTube. No, it's a horrible website. Don't show it to people. Don't show it to people. Go to YouTube or go to Spotify. I would say podcasts are your best bet.
All right,
and we have many shows.
Show.
Yeah, we have many shows about that.
You're a great guy, Al. I really enjoyed it.
Al, we really enjoyed your presentation.
Likewise, guys.
Please send me these notes. I won't share them.